If you've ever found yourself missing someone who hurt you deeply, then someone who lied, manipulated, or controlled you, they might have even humiliated you. And I just want you to know that you're not crazy because this happens a lot. You're not weak, you're not broken, you're just human. And there are reasons, psychological and biological reasons, why you still feel drawn to people who hurt you, even when you know that they were destructive. So I want to explore that, why you miss someone who destroyed you. So we're going to look at what's really happening inside your body and your brain after emotional abuse. And I want to talk about trauma bonding, what it is, how it forms, and why it keeps you hooked. And I also want to talk a little bit about what healing actually looks like, the messy, complicated process of disentangling love from trauma. So after abuse, there's a lot of confusion. When a relationship ends, especially an abusive one, most people expect you to feel angry or relieved, and they might say things like you're better off without them or just move on. But if you've ever been through it, you know that it just doesn't work like that. You can feel relieved and heartbroken at the same time, and you can feel safe and empty. You can feel free and completely lost. And that's because abusive relationships create a chemical and emotional dependency. You weren't just connected to the person that through love, you are connected through survival. So let's start with what's happening in your body. When you're in a relationship, there's a cycle of affection, fear, and relief. And your nervous system gets stuck in a loop. And when that person that you're in a relationship with is kind or loving, your brain releases dopamine and oxytocin, and those are the same chemicals that bond mothers to babies. So you feel close, soothed, and safe. But then, when they withdraw, criticise, or threaten to leave, your stress hormones like cortisol flood in, and you feel panic and dread, or even sometimes physical pain. And then when they come back, when they apologise, they hug you, they tell you that they love you, that dopamine surge hits again and it's like a fix. But that's not love, that's intermittent reinforcement. The same mechanism that keeps people addicted to gambling. So your body starts to equate danger with attachment. So when you finally leave that person, you go through withdrawal, literally. Your brain and your body are craving that hit of dopamine and oxytocin that came from the push-pull dynamic. And that's why no contact can feel unbearable at first. And it's not just loneliness, it's a chemical crash. So let's think about the psychology of missing someone who hurt you. Psychologically, abuse creates what's called cognitive dissonance. That's the mental conflict between what you know and what you feel. You know they've lied, you know they hurt you. You might even have physical evidence of their cruelty, but your body remembers the moments that they were kind or vulnerable or loving. And it's hard to hold both truths at once, that someone can be both tender and terrifying. So your mind tries to resolve that tension by idealising them, replaying the good moments, rewriting the story. And you might find yourself thinking, oh, well, maybe I overreacted. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe if I'd done something different, they'd still be here. And that's trauma bonding at work. It keeps you attached, even though you know logically that the relationship was destructive. And then there's the role of shame and self-blame. Because another reason that you miss them is because abuse teaches you to doubt yourself. Most abusers use manipulation tactics like DARVO, and that's deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. So first they deny what happened, then they attack your character, and then they make you feel like the perpetrator, and over time that erodes your sense of self. That you start thinking that you're too sensitive, too dramatic, and too difficult to love. And when that relationship ends, the internalized blame doesn't disappear, it just lingers. And missing them can sometimes be your mind's way of trying to fix what went wrong, to prove you are good enough, lovable enough, and trying to make it work. And that's not love, that's conditioning. But why do the good memories feel so real? So another reason that you miss them is because the good moments were real. At least they felt real to you. You weren't pretending. Your love was genuine and your care was sincere. What often happens in abusive relationships is that one person is emotionally invested while the other is using that connection to control or manipulate. So, of course, you miss them. You miss the version of them that you thought existed. So you miss the future that you imagined together. You miss the feeling of belonging, even though it came with pain. And it's grief, not just for the person, but for the dream and your body that remembers. Trauma isn't just emotional, it's stored in your body. So even after you leave, then certain songs, smells, or places can trigger that familiar jolt of adrenaline, and your nervous system remembers the patterns, like danger, relief, and that's why you might feel restless or anxious after the breakup, even when you know you're safe, because your body's still waiting for the next fix of adrenaline or affection. And healing means teaching your body that it no longer needs that cycle to feel alive. It's slow work though. It's through grounding, therapy, safety and consistency. And if you've ever felt like you should be over it by now, just know that your body heals on its own timeline. And let's talk about identity. When someone's controlled or belittled you for years, leaving them just doesn't end a relationship. It ends a version of you. And so, like, maybe when you were with them, you stopped wearing certain clothes because they didn't like them, or maybe you stopped seeing your certain friends, or maybe you lost your sense of humour, your spark, or your joy. So when they're gone, you're not just grieving them, you're grieving the part of yourself that got lost in that relationship. And healing means slowly building your identity piece by piece. It's not about getting the old you back. It's about becoming the you who survived. There's a myth about closure, because many women tell me I just need closure. But closure from an abuser rarely comes. They don't give you a clean ending because that would mean taking responsibility. They usually leave you in confusion, half-truths, mixed signals, ghosting, and rewriting the story so they look like the victim. And real closure doesn't come from them. It comes when you stop needing them to validate your pain. When you stop chasing understanding from someone who doesn't want to be understood. Closure is an inside job. So how do you begin healing? Well, healing it starts with the truth, naming what happened without minimising it, acknowledging that it was abuse, not just a difficult relationship. And then it's about rebuilding safety. And that's inside and out. So safety in your home, in your routines and in your body, and eventually safety in your own voice again. And you can begin by journaling. So write down what you miss and why. Writing letters that you'll never send to release what's trapped. Grounding your body like breath work, walks or gentle movement. And finding trauma-informed counselling or a support group that truly understands. So healing doesn't mean that you'll never think of them again. It means that when you do, it won't hurt so much. Because you can't block them out, because that's part of your past and that's always going to be there. You also need to reclaim your power. So over time, you start to see the pattern for what it was. It's not love, but it was control. Once you start seeing that clearly, you can never unsee it, and that's when real freedom begins. You realise that missing them doesn't mean that you want them back. It means you're human. You're processing the loss and you're reclaiming yourself. So you begin to remember who you were before they convinced you to shrink, and you start to notice quiet moments of peace, and you start to feel you again. And that's the real victim. That's the real victory, not forgetting them, but remembering who you are. And if any of this has resonated with you, if you found yourself caught between anger and longing, between knowing and feeling, please know that you don't have to go through it alone. Healing from this kind of trauma takes time. It takes compassion, and it takes a place to find. It takes a safe space to untangle what happened. That's exactly the kind of support that I offer through my counselling practice. And if you'd like to work with me or have a free consultation to talk through where you're at, You can find out more at kellyoliverdougall.co.uk. And if you're not ready for that step yet, that's okay too. Just stay connected here. Keep learning, keep reflecting, keep healing. Because every time you choose peace over chaos, you're breaking the bond and you're building something stronger in its place, and that's you.